Hi, board gamers, and welcome back to this bite-sized episode of Not Board Gaming. Now, in today's episode, what we're going to be doing is having a look at the solo mode in the abstract strategy puzzle game that is Project L. That's right, Project L, with its rather minimalist design. Now, this game was designed by, you'll have to forgive me, I have to read the back of the box for this, Adam Spaniel, Jan Sukal and Michal Mikes, and is published by Boardcubator. And the guys at Boardcubator were very kind to send me across a review copy for this, for the sole purpose of me reviewing the solo game of it. As always, with my review copies, irrespective of whether it's one I bought myself or one that's been provided to me, it won't alter my overall thoughts on the game itself. So what is Project L? Well, as I mentioned, it's an abstract kind of strategy puzzle type game. And if you are familiar with, and who isn't, Tetris in any form whatsoever, then you've almost got the basics of what Project L is about. You're going to get a number of these various kind of tetromino, polyomino kind of shaped pieces like this, the S here, or the L, or a cube, etc. And you're going to use those to kind of complete puzzles that you get on, or puzzle cards that you get, and these kind of things here, which score you a number of points depending on how many of those you complete. And in the kind of 2 to 5 player game, what you will do is you will pull these cards out and you will try to complete as many of these cards as possible before you run through the stack, and the person at the end of it that's got the most complete cards with the highest number of points on there will win the game. And obviously that relies on a certain amount of interaction within the multiplayer game. So what the guys at Boardcubator have done is realise that there is a solo market out there, and they've come up with a solo game for this. And whilst I would say that kind of the multiplayer game is more of an abstract strategy type game, I think that the solo game is more less strategy and it's more of a puzzle type game. So one of the striking things that you'll notice when you first open your box of Project L is just how designed everything is. And I mean that in a way that is either going to kind of delight some people, and some people I've noticed aren't too keen on the design. I personally like this striking box, this kind of monocolor box with the L and the black, the blue L on there on the black box. I think it really stands out. And I know some people have said it wouldn't make them pick it up in a game shop, but for me, it kind of would. The second thing is the quality of the production as well. It really screams a very, very high quality. For example, these kind of puzzle cards that you've got to complete, as you can see, they are relatively thick. In fact, they're very, very thick because they are recessed as well, where you're going to put your pieces. They're durable. There's black and white ones of those. You've got the player aids themselves, and these are, you've got the first player marker on there, and they just tell you the progression order of the pieces that you get. They are a little bit flimsy, but again, they're kind of in keeping with the game. The rule book is nice and well laid out. It's got some great text on there, and despite it being white on black text, it actually works for me. You get this cloth bag that you're going to keep your pieces in, and then you get these wonderful kind of polyomino type pieces. As you can see, they come in all sorts of shapes and colours. Now, as this is a polyomino game, then you know, pretty much like Isle of Cats or Feast for Odin, that you're going to have to, at some point, kind of fit these pieces together to start completing your puzzles. Whoops. Maybe do a better example than that. Start completing your puzzles like this. Okay, so that's kind of the quality of the components and the pieces themselves. In reality, I think it's a really high quality package. I think everything feels really, really good, and it feels like, you've got a bit of a nice investment for your cash here. So as I mentioned, in the kind of multiplayer game, you're playing against other players and you're pulling cards out of the stack and you're trying to complete the puzzles to get the most points. In the solo game, it's slightly different. See, what you're going to do is, out of all the cards that you get, and you do get a fair number of cards, you're going to take 15 of the random white cards and 10 of the random black cards. Now, the white cards and black cards are, they all have puzzles. The white ones are slightly easier to complete and require you to think about your longer term strategy a little bit less, but because of that they score less points, so they're either 0, 1 or 2 point cards that you get for the white cards. And of course, as you then progress through that and you start building up more pieces, you're going to have access to some of the black cards, and I'll come on how that works in a bit. And your black cards start moving up to your 3, 4 and 5 point scoring, so it's important that you kind of put yourself in a position where you can score the most from completing those black cards, but they don't come out until maybe, kind of the first 2 or 3 rounds of the game have taken place. So once you've got your 10 black cards and your 15 white cards, setup is an absolute breeze. What you're going to do is take the first 9 cards from the top of the stack, so it's white cards on top of black, and you're going to lay them out in a 3x3 grid. Then you're going to take 4 of these little tiny yellow pieces here, and I'll explain how these work in a bit in terms of how they work in the context of the game. And above the first left-hand column, you're going to place 1 of those yellow pieces. Second column, you're going to place 2, and in the third column, you're then going to place another 1 above that. And then for the opponent, you're going to take 6 of those yellow pieces if you want a relatively easy game, 3 if you want a middling game, or 0 of those yellow pieces if you don't want if you want a very hard game, and you're going to put them over to one side as the kind of opponent supply. The last thing you're going to do is take one of these player mats, and you're going to take your starting pieces, and no matter whether it's multiplayer or single player, you always start off with 1 yellow and 1 green piece, and that's it. You're ready to go. Setup takes no time whatsoever. There you go. Here's the game set up for the solo variant. I had my stack of 15 white and 10 black cards, white on top of black. Pulled the first 9 off and created a 3x3 grid, and there we go. And you can see the stack left. And then I put the yellow pieces on top of each, and I'll explain how these work in a second. So 1 yellow piece, 2 yellow piece, 1 yellow piece. I'm going for the easy game, so I created a supply area there of 6 yellow pieces for the AI. I put my kind of player aid and starting mat down there, and I've also got my starting pieces. Now, no matter what game you play, you will always start with 1 yellow and 1 green piece. So you put those on there. The yellows are level 1, greens are level 2. I'll explain that in a bit. And then here I've put all of the polyomino tiles into a box, into the box lid. And why? Because it's not a real-time game. You're not scrabbling for pieces. There's not a, if you take a piece, then somebody else can't take a piece. You can just take them at your leisure. So putting them in a box gives you nice, easy access to them. And that's it. That is the game set up. So in the solo game, what's going to happen is you're going to take 3, on your particular go, you're going to take 3 actions, and you can repeat the actions. Fortunately, on your player aid, it gives you a list of the actions here. And as you can see, Project L, player aid, all the ones in white are what I can take. The 2 that have a blue at the beginning, they're for the expansions only, and I don't have the expansions. So I take 3 actions on my turn, or I can repeat an action up to 3 times as well. I could take a puzzle, I could take a level 1 piece, I could upgrade a piece, I could place a piece, or I could take a master action once per turn, and that's where I can place a piece on all the puzzles I've got in front of me. Obviously at the beginning of the game you don't have any. So the crux of the game is obviously taking and scoring puzzles, and these are the puzzle pieces here. If I was to take one of those pieces, then that would then trigger an action for the solo, for these markers at the top here, and I'll come on to that in a second. But let's talk about the pieces themselves before we move on to taking a puzzle. So as I mentioned, we've got these starting pieces, which is a level 1, which is the yellow, and a level 2, which is the green. And here you can see there is a diagram which illustrates what levels the pieces are. So level 1 is yellow, level 2 is green, level 3 is blue and orange, and level 4 is these shapes. You can't dive in and take these shapes. For example, if I wanted to take a level 4 shape from my starting supply of a green here, this will cost me 2 actions. First of all, I would have to upgrade my green one to an orange L. Let me see if I can find one of those. Of course, when you're looking for them, you cannot find them. Either an orange L or a blue or a blue bar. So there we go. Then I would then have to upgrade that for a level 4 piece, which is of course say one of these T pieces here, and that's 2 of my actions already taken. I still have a level 1 piece now, and I have a level 4 piece. I could then take a final action, and that final action could be that I can take that player tile there. But what happens when you take a player tile? So if I was to take a player tile, a puzzle tile should I say, which is this one here, obviously I can't complete that puzzle now because I've taken my 3 actions. I used 2 actions to upgrade to get that piece, and I took that. But when you take one of these, you also take, if they're above the that particular column, one of these pieces and you put it into the opponent's supply, and explain how that works in a second. And that's it. That's my first go done. I've upgraded twice and I've taken a player tile. Of course, I could have just upgraded once, taken a player tile and placed one of my pieces within that puzzle tile, should I say, not player tile, and that would be partially completing the puzzle there for me, and the aim is to complete as many as possible. Let's move on to the AI's turn now. One of the first things I do, when I have taken a puzzle tile is I replace it with a puzzle tile. Now, you notice that when I took that one from this column, I removed a piece from here, because what this means for the AI is any of these pieces any of these columns that have a yellow piece above them are locked in terms of the puzzles that they can take. And the AI will always start and it will kind of look this way for the puzzles and try and take the maximum scoring tile piece that it can. But as you can see, all those are locked. So what happens now for the AI is, because they are locked, the AI is going to take one piece from each of these and put it back into the reserve, not into its own supply. So almost in one fell swoop, what's happened now is the AI has now unlocked each column there, so it can take whichever is the highest scoring puzzle on its very next go. So now it's back to me, and I have 3 more goes now. So if we go back to the player aid, I can take a puzzle, I can take a level 1 piece, I can upgrade a piece, or I can place a piece. So I think my first action I'm going to do is going to be to upgrade that piece, to complete that puzzle there. And as soon as you complete a puzzle, what happens is I'm going to flip that over into my scoring pile. So I know I've now scored 1 point, and that piece goes back into there for me. I still have 2 more actions to take. I could upgrade that yellow piece to get a green piece, or I could take another yellow piece, which then means I would then have access to 3 pieces, or I could take another puzzle from here. So let's take another puzzle from here. Right, okay, so we'll take that puzzle. Let's place a piece into that puzzle, and that's my 3 actions done. And of course, I need to replace that puzzle. Now, because all of these were already unlocked, what that means is there were no yellow pieces for me to move back into the opponent's supply, into the AI supply. So that's my 3 goes done there. I placed a piece and completed a puzzle. I took a new puzzle and placed 1 more piece, and I still have a yellow piece just there. Now we're going to go back to the AI, because this is where from kind of round 2 and 3 things start changing up a little bit. So now we're on the AI's second turn, and what the AI is going to do is choose the highest value card on there, and it will score that automatically. It doesn't have to complete the puzzles. And as we can see here, there are 2 cards that both score 2 points. There's this card here and this card here. So what the AI will do is kind of going in a reverse S, is it will start this way and snake and take the first card that is the highest point for there. So there we go, we can see this first card is it's going to get that 2-player card. We'll put that into its scoring pile. We'll replace that, but what you also do at this stage is any of the yellow that's left in the opponent's supply at this point, so we know there are a number left here because he started with 6 and I think I added 1 onto there, is we're going to take those and we're going to put that above that column. And that means that column is locked, and it's now got 6 locked on there, but those will move around as we play the game. So that's the opponent's go done. He's kind of taken a card, he's scored his 2 points, he's replaced it, and we blocked that middle column for them to use. So back to my turn, and then we'll do 1 more AI's turn, and you'll see how things will work at this point. So back to me, I've got 3 goes left. I think for my first go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to complete this puzzle, and you can see this real kind of satisfaction now as I place my pieces within the tile. They've completed that white part of the puzzle, and that's it. I can flip that card over, and that's my first go done. So I could start thinking about upgrading pieces. Do I need more pieces, or do I want to take a puzzle tile? And I think I want to take a puzzle tile. So what we'll do is we will take, I don't know, this puzzle tile here. There we go. And that's my second go done, so I now have a 1-point puzzle there, and I'll explain why I took that one. It's more for demonstration. Now, I could upgrade a piece, or I could take a level 1 piece, and I think that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to take another level 1 piece, which is this here, because what I want to do, if I have access, as I get to the more advanced puzzles, to having more potential pieces. And there we go, we'll replace that back, and because I didn't take anything from the middle column, I don't do anything with the opponents, the locking stuff up there. But now we're back onto the opponent's go, and this is where things can really start to move forward or start to change a little bit. So back over to the opponent's go now, and as we mentioned before, he's going to take the highest scoring tile on the board, and he's going to start in this kind of reverse S here. And there are 3 2-point cards on there, so of course he's going to take this very first top left 2-point card, and we will do that there and move that. However, what happens now is that because he's taken a card from this column that had nothing in there, what's going to happen is it will move one of these yellow locking kind of tokens from any of the columns that are left. So if there had been one in there, they'd move that over there, and it would also move yellow tokens from its supply if it had any. It didn't have any, so all that's done is move one token from there to there, so it's now got 2 columns locked for its next go. And that's it. It's scored 2 so far. It's scored 2. I've scored 2, and you can see it will then go back to me, and I can think about upgrading my pieces. I can think about placing my pieces. I can think about taking puzzles. What I'm really thinking about is, of course, getting through to those black puzzles, because that's where the big scoring happens. But of course, as soon as I get there, the AI is going to get there as well and start scoring those black puzzles automatically. And that's pretty much how the game is going to play out. I will continue with my 3 actions per turn, then it will go over to the AI, and depending on whether he's unlocking columns or if there are columns already unlocked, they will continue to take the highest scoring card, and you can see their card is progressively building, not each round, but almost each and every round. And the game continues until you've gone through this entire stack. Once the final card has been drawn from there, you will do one more complete round. That will give you time to either complete a puzzle or fill a puzzle, or take puzzles or upgrade pieces, whatever you need to do. Then you'll perform something called your finishing touch. And that means that if you have puzzle pieces left and some puzzles left, and you know you can finish them with the pieces that you've got left, then what you can do is use those pieces to complete any outstanding puzzles, but you will deduct 1 point from your final score for every piece that you've done. Then that's it. You will then add up all your scoring tiles on here. You will add up the AI score from here. You will subtract any finishing touch kind of points that you need to from yours, and that's it. The person, either you or the AI that's got the highest score, will win. And the game plays in round about 15 minutes flat. From getting the box down to setting it up to playing it to almost putting it away, you can complete a game in round about 15 minutes flat, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. I think what you got with Project L is almost the very definition of a quick blast mobile phone game in board game form for the solo player. Now, for 2 or more players, and I think it plays up to 5 players, then there's a certain amount of interaction there. There are blocking mechanisms that you want to do. You'll be aware of what puzzles your opponents have taken and what you need to do potentially to beat your score, and you will try and block that. Obviously in the solo variant, it's a different thing. There's no real strategy other than trying to get to those black cards and maximize your position to do that, but you're not trying to block the AI from doing anything necessarily, although there is a little bit of that happening. What you're doing here is completing a puzzle, and each game that you play is a puzzle. But it's great because you kind of, say, you get the game, you let it out, you set it up, and you play a game in about 15 minutes flat, and then you can put it away, and it gives you that really kind of nice quick buzz. You know, the component quality is really, really good. I like the kind of the chunkiness of these polyomino tiles, or tetromino, whatever you want to call them. I think these puzzle mats are absolutely outstanding quality with the recess in there. Everything has these nice kind of bright colours against the black background. It all really pops and stands out. Learning the mechanics of the game is a breeze. You could literally teach this game either multiplayer or solo to somebody in about 2 minutes flat, and that's it. You can delve straight into the game. So I can see it being, as a multiplayer game, a really good kind of filler game, or maybe an icebreaker game, a game to start the evening or to end the evening, that kind of thing. As a solo game, it's a slightly different thing. You know, it's a game where you potentially want to play it because you don't want to think too much about anything. You're just going to complete a puzzle, and you know it is an abstract game. There isn't a great amount of depth to it, and that's probably one of its largest stumbling points as a solo game. So you hit that point where the solo mode has been designed to provide you with an insight into the full game of Project L. It gives you a certain element of what the game is about, but it doesn't give you anything, and that's kind of both a positive and a negative for it. So the positive is it's really quick to set up, so easy to teach, or so easy to learn, and it's nice and easy to play, and quick to play, should I say, and you can play a couple of games on the bounce. But that is also a bit of a negative from a solo experience from it, because it really is about as deep as a puddle. You know, there is no long-term strategy really to think of in this game. You're playing a couple of maybe games on the bounce of a relatively quick puzzle game, and I keep harkening back, and I will harken back to the fact is it feels like, you know, kind of a mobile phone app in board game form, and that's fine. You know, if you're on a tube or on a train, you play maybe 15-20 minutes of a game like this on your mobile phone and move to something else. And as a solo player, that's exactly what you're going to do with Project L as well. You're going to set it up, you're going to play a couple of games maybe on the bounce, and that's probably it. You're going to put it away and then get it out again when you've got another half hour to spare, and that's okay. But is it enough reason purely to buy it from a solo experience? And I don't think it is. I enjoy the solo experience, and I'm glad they've sent me this game. And I think the solo experience is a nice little puzzle, but I can't really recommend the game as a pure solo game, because there just isn't enough to it to grasp you as a solo player. Now, I do think that as you know, if you're a solo player and you're going to then end up playing this game with other people, then great. You know, go and fill your boots. It's a good family game. It's an easy one to teach. I say about 2 minutes flat. You can teach it. You can have a lot of laughs with this. Maybe have some drinks with it, and you're not too worried about stuff. And you know, you can feel those blocking interactions come in place. If you're then going to play it solo after that, great, you've got it, and you know if you've got half an hour to spare, you can play a couple of games of this, and you'd be relatively happy in terms of a non-brain burner kind of situation. So yeah, I think as a multiplayer game, absolutely great. As a solo game, I can't recommend it purely for solo, and that's not a slight on Boardcubator and the designers, because it wasn't necessarily designed as a pure solo game. What they've done is developed a solo mode on this, and it works pretty well. So there we go. That was my review of the solo game of Project L by Boardcubator. Look, as I said, it's a nice game. I really appreciate having this. I'm glad I've got it in my collection. I can see when I've got friends around that this is a great one to kind of just, you know, get out and play, and, you know, anything but Cards Against Humanity. And it's far better than a game like Cards Against Humanity, of course it is. It's a wonderful tactile experience with some quality components. There is a mild issue, I think, with the thinness of the player boards, but they're not really player boards at the same time. They are player aids, but even so, they just, you know, the quality isn't quite the same as the rest of the components there. Oh, and another slightly strange thing is that, of course, they've got these actions that if you've only got the base game, you can't use on these pieces here for the ghost pieces that you can't that aren't with the base game. And I think there might have been stretch goals. Seeing those on there doesn't necessarily make me want to go out and buy these expansions. It just makes me slightly annoyed that these stretch goals potentially weren't included in the base game. And that's just a mild design oddity kind of going in the face of the rest of the production, which I think is absolutely first rate for a game like this. So yeah, Project L by Boardcubator. Not a total recommendation for a solo as a pure solo experience, but by all means check it out if you know you're going to play it at some point with friends. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Not Board Gaming Bitesize. My name's Mark. I've been your host. Please remember you can always obviously like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. That's Not Board Gaming, always BORED. So yeah, smash the like button, watch out other videos. And in the meantime, if you can't find anybody else to play with, there's nothing wrong with playing with yourselves. Until next time.